Hello everyone and welcome back to another Star Wars action figure review. Today we're taking a look at another figure from the vintage collection, once again a slightly older release. This figure was made available as part of the second wave of the vintage collection when it was resurrected back in 2018, and it is once again a character from Solo, a Star Wars story. This time around we are of course taking a look at the star of the show, and that is Han Solo himself. This is a really nice figure and one that I was very excited to get my hands on. It does depict Han wearing the costume that we see him wear throughout the majority of the film, and it is one of only two 3¾ inch action figures of Han Solo that depicts him in this costume, the other being as part of the Force Link 5POA line. It was released with much more limited articulation and with the Force Link wristband, but this is the figure that you're going to want to add to your collection if you're looking for a definitive 3¾ inch Han Solo figure from Solo, a Star Wars story. It's a great figure and I can't wait to share it with you in more detail. So before we do, we are going to take a look once again at the packaging that he comes in, and as you can see we do get that standard vintage collection packaging with this figure. Got a nice image of Han on the card back itself, although unfortunately it's a photoshopped mock-up. As I've mentioned in previous reviews, I do prefer it when Hasbro use movie stills from the films as opposed to these photoshopped images. It just feels a bit more vintage in my opinion. This just looks a little bit off. It's a cool image, but it's a composite. You know, it doesn't look like a still from the film. It just looks slightly off, but a cool card nonetheless. You've got the Solo logo at the top, Kenner logo down in the bottom corner, and on the reverse side some more figures available as part of the vintage collection. We have taken a look at Enfys Nest and the Imperial Assault Tank Driver as well, so make sure you check out those reviews. I haven't yet picked up Snoke or the First Order Stormtrooper. If and when I do, I'll be sure to review them, but they're not figures that are at the top of my wants list. I have been lucky enough to track down the elusive Death Trooper, but he has stayed on card. Again, if and when I pick up a second version, I'll be sure to rip that one open and give you guys a look at it, because it's a really nice figure on the card, that one. So that is the packaging that Han Solo comes in. Once again, decent card, but just not a massive fan of that image if I'm being honest. That's going to do it for packaging. Now let's take a look at the figure itself, and here he is. Again, I really like this figure. There's not a lot of problems with the 5POA version. It's not a figure that I've picked up myself, but from images that I've seen, you know, it looks very similar to this figure. The only obvious differences are the added articulation with the vintage collection release, whereas with figures such as the Range Trooper and Enfys Nest from the vintage and the Force Link lines, there are some visible visual differences, whereas with this guy you've just got a little bit more added posability, which is what I really wanted. I did want a definitive Han Solo from this movie for my collection, and I have it with this figure. It's a very nice release. Now, one of the things that I really liked about Solo was Han Solo's wardrobe in it. This is a really cool costume, and it does sort of make you wonder why Han would decide to downgrade and wear, quite honestly, a rather boring and plain, in contrast, white shirt and black vest throughout the rest of the movies when he's got this really cool ensemble going on. I'm a massive fan of the brown jacket. It's a really cool look. The dark shirt underneath looks very nice. I'm not entirely sure why there's this fascination in the Star Wars universe to have a folded flap on the shirts, but we have it once again with Han. Lando obviously sports one in the film. We get Luke wearing one in Return of the Jedi, so quite a bold fashion statement there amongst our heroes. But a cool costume nonetheless. I really like these black shoulder pads that we've got going on. You've got this nice little detail on the chest there, but as we come down towards the bottom of the figure, you've got that much more familiar blue pants, holster, black boots kind of look going on, which is really cool. In terms of sculpt, this figure is really well done. The head sculpt is fantastic. Obviously, this figure was made available before Hasbro began to utilise the photoreal face printing technology, so it doesn't look as realistic as it probably could or should. But for a figure of this scale, it's a reasonable likeness. The paint applications can be a little bit hit and miss. When I picked this figure up in store, there were some figures that had bug eyes, one eye was looking one way, one eye was looking the other, eyebrows were raised and all that sort of stuff. So, you know, if you do have the opportunity to pick this figure up in store and you're a bit unsure as to whether or not the figure should look the way he does when you pick it up, have a look through the pegs and make sure you get the best one, because the paint applications do tend to vary on a lot of these figures. But I think I've picked up a reasonable looking one here. But yeah, really nice head sculpt. It's faithful to the likeness of Alden Ehrenreich, who played Han in the movie. Hopefully we get to see more of him in future projects. I'm really hoping that we get either a Solo 2 movie announced at some point, or at least a Disney Plus series based on the film. That would be fantastic. But yeah, very cool head sculpt indeed. You've got all that nice detail captured in the hair. Very wispy effect going on there, which looks fantastic. Costume is really nicely sculpted. You've got all the creases and folds in the outfit there, which look phenomenal. Nice details on the belt, and some nice fake leather texture there going on in the boots. Now, in terms of accessories, Han just comes with the one, and that's his standard blaster pistol that we now know was given to him by Tobias Beckett. This is a really cool sculpt. It's very small in comparison to other releases, but it's really nicely sculpted for the size. Got some really nice details going on there, and I'm not sure how well you can see it, but if you get a look at the grip there, the handle of the blaster, it is painted brown, which is a nice detail that Hasbro added there. The blaster itself can be stored away inside the holster on Han's leg. Unfortunately, the holster, while the belt and holster is a separately sculpted piece, it has been glued to the leg and the brown strap around the thigh, which is a little bit of a shame as it does hinder a little bit of that articulation. But it's nothing too major. You can still get some reasonable posability out of this figure despite that. And on the subject of articulation, let's just go through that now. He does have a ball joint at the head, nice fluid range of movement there. Hinges at the shoulders, hinges at the elbows and at the wrists. A ball joint, although it's more of a swivel, there's not a whole range of movement going on there, at the abdomen. Hinges at the hips, as I mentioned, swivels at the upper thigh, hinges in the knees and hinges in the ankles. So you can get him in some really cool poses. One of my favourite ways to display this figure on my shelf is, you know, in that typical Han Solo gunslinger pose, as we've seen on numerous posters and still images from not only Solo but across the original trilogy as well. But yeah, just a really cool figure. Very happy to add this one to the collection. I do have most of the other versions of Han Solo released from this movie. The 5POA Mud Trooper figure is a real highlight, and I'll probably give you a look at that one at some point in the future. The figure that was released of him from the opening scenes of the movie with the land speeder is a very cool figure as well. And at some point I'm hoping to get my hands on the Vandor 1 multi-pack, which features Han Solo in his fur coat and goggles that he wears during the train heist, which is my favourite scene in the film. But all in all, a phenomenal figure. Definitely one that I would recommend picking up. If you're a fan of Solo, which I am, then this is going to be one that you want to add to your collection. Great figure, and yeah, just a worthy addition to the collection. So I hope you've enjoyed having a look at this guy. I will be back with some more reviews very soon. I've got some more Black Series 6-inch figures to give you a look at. Hopefully somewhere down the line I'll be picking up more vintage figures as well, so stay tuned for those. And as always guys, until next time, I want to thank you for watching. Keep collecting, and as always, once this guy will stand up. That's one of the flaws with this figure. He doesn't like standing up. He's very tricky to get in a standard pose. So I do find that a display stand does help. But there we go. Thanks for watching this review, guys. Until next time, keep collecting, and may the Force be with you.